So I heard about this new Sculk sensor and I just wanted to play with it a little bit and see what it's all about because honestly it sounds really cool and it sounds like it can replace a lot of the things that I do with command blocks, which anything with wireless sensitivity and stuff like that has to be really cool. So why don't we just get started and try a few things with it? Okay, so let's test this thing with a dispenser and see what that does because if this thing fires as I approach it, well, what it looks like it does, that's actually pretty good because it means maybe we just need a simple clock and we can have a really nice arrow trap here. Let me see what I can do. Okay, so I'm just going to place a piston here and then I'm going to place a couple of observers so that we have an observer clock that connects whenever, hopefully when someone approaches. It's going to activate whenever the Sculk sensor is active. So let's see what this does. And hopefully with this connected to a dispenser full of arrows, we should have a barrage of arrows as someone approaches. But let's see. Yeah, it looks like the piston itself is actually triggering the Sculk sensor whenever it's getting back on the retraction. That's strange. So it's funny because this means that a piston next to a Sculk sensor will function exactly like two observers facing each other. Okay, so I decided that I needed to understand this block a little bit better, and after a couple of tests I found out that it can sense things as far as 8 blocks away when we're talking about vertical distance. And then as you go to the sides, that distance gets a little bit smaller, so in the end you get this circle shape here. So if you make any change or fall or move on the blue blocks or anywhere within, the sensor is going to sense it and send a redstone signal. Now, as I was doing these tests, I noticed that maybe, but I'm not sure, that the sensor is sending signals that are different depending on where I'm falling on or what block is changing. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little setup where we test that and see if we're actually getting different signal strengths, because that would mean a lot more. That would make this block a lot more valuable. So let's see what happens. Okay, so I have 15 redstone lamps ready and 8 buttons right here. Let's see. So the first one gives a full signal. Second one, a little bit less. First one, full signal. Less. Okay, I see. So the third one, let's see what it does. It's a little bit less. So each one of them is giving less redstone. Now, I'm not counting how many it's going down by, because I think there's some kind of equation. We're converting from a distance of 8 to a signal strength of 15. So I'm sure the equation is either out there or someone's going to come up with it sooner or later. But we can see that depending on the distance, the signal is going to be different. So I'm thinking there's going to be a lot of cool applications for this. Okay, so since we now know a good deal of information about this new Sculk sensor, I figured I'd build something useful with it. And I think that we can actually get a simple farm going by using a piston, a Sculk sensor, and a dropper. And this way we don't need the circuit that activates the dropper every time something enters it, but instead we can have, I think the circuit would be pretty simple. We just need a comparator sticking out of the hopper that will get a signal, trigger the piston, which will trigger the Sculk sensor, and that will trigger the dropper. And so you have a full farm here. You can put some lava and cook your chicken. In this case, I'm just going to go for a simple egg farm. So let's just come back in a little bit and see how it's doing. All right, it looks like the farm is actually working pretty successfully. I think that the biggest flaw to this system is that it's not going to fire frequently. So if you have a lot of things dropped into the hopper at once, it's just going to fire once. But you can connect some kind of clock, I'm guessing, and get something going, considering that it seems like the Sculk sensor has a cooldown period before it can fire again. Which I don't know, it seems pretty long, but we'll figure out how long that is. Okay, so now that we're done with the farm, I think it's time to do something more interesting. I'm going to do a sliding door that opens up automatically as you approach it, and I'm using the simplest door possible, but I placed the Sculk sensor down there on the floor so that we'd actually have a very small detection area instead of the door opening when you're really far away. But it looks like we put it too high up because I think the doors are triggering it. So it looks like it's within the range of the piston. So let me just take it one block lower and connect it here. And I think, yeah, this looks like it stopped. So let's just go ahead and test it. All right, so it looks like it's working and that we calculated the distance correctly. So what I want to do now is actually count exactly how many blocks we have. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7 and 8 is where we're running. Yeah, so that's the same. It's 8 vertical as well. All right, so let's do a quick test with a target block. I don't know what's going to happen here. Let's take a shot. I really love playing with these. Nothing happened. Let's bring it a little bit closer. Take another shot. Oh, this one triggered it. So yeah, the target block triggers it as well. Honestly, I don't know what else to do with this, so I'm just going to move on from this one. Okay, so technically, and with this kind of setup, with a bunch of redstone lamps and a bunch of Sculk sensors, we can actually detect how far someone is or how far along a wall they are. I don't know, look at it. I mean, they're lamps that are responding to where someone is. So obviously this could be an alarm system for the outside or, I don't know, a dance floor? Maybe. I mean, a lot of them are lighting up, but let me try something. Okay, so this came out a little crazier than I thought it would, but I think while it looks cool, it's not exactly a dance floor because it takes about a second for a Sculk sensor to turn off. And just so you know, this is just a layer of redstone lamps with a layer of Sculk sensors under it. So essentially each Sculk sensor is also lighting up a couple of lamps, but you are getting that sort of circle similar to the circle that I drew earlier in blue concrete, but this is a bit bigger because of the signal loss, I guess, or the signal noise, because redstone lamps aren't great at telling where the signal is coming from. I think this has been great. I think this block is fantastic and it's probably going to have a ton of applications. People are going to come up with really cool things and I'm going to keep it in mind. I mean, whatever redstone thing I'm going to build from now on, I'm going to keep in mind that this block exists and I'm going to try to use it one way or another. There's a lot of loss, what with the fact that it detects anything 8 blocks away and around it. So, you know, imagine having multiple players in the same room or something. It could go crazy. So it's going to need some very specific design to be usable for wireless redstone. But anyway, this is all I had to say today. So if you have enjoyed this video, and I really hope you have, please consider subscribing and come back tomorrow because I'll be putting up a new video tomorrow at 12 p.m. Central Time. Thank you again for watching and have a great rest of your day.